ATF's failures in the death of ICE agent Jaime Zapata. You know, there's nothing more difficult than dealing with a person who puts their life on the line for the United States of America and they get killed doing it. And they lose their life. The Zapata family deserves some answers. Wonderful family. Jaime was one of, I think, 5 children, 5 kids. All those brothers serve in law enforcement, various capacities. And I don't know that the Zapata family is here. I hope they're able to watch on television. I think that they are. But it breaks your heart when you have somebody that young who is serving their nation and their life is taken. And it was violent, and it was, many people believe, preventable. But it's also a responsibility, I believe, of the United States to, and the Congress to understand what happened so that we can try to help prevent it and make sure that it never happens again. It's also, I think, an imperative, it certainly is in my heart, to give answers to the family so they can understand what happened and what went well and what didn't go well. And as you'll hear me say time and time again in this committee, we're different in the United States. We are self-critical. We do take a good hard look at ourselves and ask difficult questions. And it's one of the things that differentiates the United States of America from just about every other country on the planet. That you can speak truth to power, you can bring people in, you can grill them and talk to them and answer or ask hard questions and get those answers, and we are self-critical. It's not just here to protect the politically elite or the higher-ups in government. So what happened on February 15th of 2011, more than 6 years ago now, cartel members in Mexico murdered an Immigration and Customs Enforcement agent, Jaime Zapata. Well, he was driving there on ICE business. One of the firearms recovered from the attack traced back to an October 2010 purchase by Ortilio Osorio at a Dallas-Fort Worth gun show. The evidence uncovered by the Department of Justice Inspector General shows that the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms, the ATF, failed to investigate Osorio, his brother Renferi Osorio, and their associates who were all part of a straw purchasing ring. Straw purchasing, it's illegal in the United States of America to buy a gun for someone else, and you certainly can't do that for others in mass. It's against the law. Evidently, the ATF potentially missed chances to prevent the firearms in question from being trafficking to Mexico. The ATF knew in June of 2010 that the Osorios were associated with an organization that was likely trafficking firearms to Mexico. In fact, the Inspector General found that by late September 2010, the ATF should have been investigating the Osorio brothers and their associates. As the IG summarized, and I quote, "These were dangerous individuals involved in serious and significant ongoing criminal activities that represented a substantial risk to public safety in the United States and Mexico," end quote. The Inspector General also found a scenario where ATF had both a legal authority and the opportunity to take firearms in the Osorios' possessions, but failed to seize them. Those firearms were also later found at a crime scene. Unlike the Fast and Furious case, which this committee has been vigorously pursuing, where refraining from contacting strong purchasers was part of the flawed strategy, the Inspector General found the Dallas Field Division simply failed to do its job. We'll never know whether Agent Zapata would still be alive if the ATF had done its job properly, and we rely heavily on the Inspector General and their expertise in looking at this. And again, our hearts and minds and prayers go to the Zapata family. In September of 2012, nearly 5 years ago, the committee and Senator Chuck Grassley requested an investigation of ATF's actions relating to Agent Zapata's death. We presented evidence to the IG obtained from confidential sources as well as whistleblowers. We told the Inspector General that ATF may have had probable cause to arrest the Osorio brothers in November of 2010 when ATF witnessed them providing 40 weapons with obliterated serial numbers to an undercover ATF informant at a Walmart parking lot for the purpose of trafficking those weapons to Mexico. The Department of Justice Inspector General report confirms these facts. ATF's first contact with the Osorios and Morrison, however, did not occur until 3 months after Agent Zapata's murder. So again, information was there, but it was 3 months after Agent Zapata was murdered that the ATF first made contact. It's been more than 6 years since Agent Zapata was murdered in the ambush attack involving U.S. purchased and subsequently trafficked firearms. It's been nearly 5 years since the probe was requested. Today we want to examine ATF's past practices with respect to investigating straw purchasers and firearms trafficking cases. We've had the ATF here on a couple different occasions dealing with these issues, and yet we are concerned that these problems are still happening. ATF must enforce the existing laws and aggressively stop illegally purchased and possessed firearms. Repeated excuses that the U.S. Attorney Office will not prosecute or that heightened probable cause is necessary, I think should be rejected. You know, I think we do have a further problem with prosecutors prosecuting gun crimes. In fact, this committee is anticipating having hearings on that very subject. It's frustrating not only at the ATF level, but it's frustrating with the TSA. I mean, every day we're taking guns off of airplanes, and yet go try to find a case that's prosecuted. It's rare to none. Seems to be virtually no consequence. And today we aim to bring renewed focus on the incident for not only the Zapata family, but also those other families who serve in our nation and the overall general well-being of the United States of America. We invited ATF Deputy Director Ronald Turk and Special Agent in Charge William Temple to testify today because they can provide some of the answers the Zapata family and their public deserve. The Justice Department doesn't think we need to hear from them. You'll notice that there are 5 seats there, and only 2 have bothered to show up. You know, when Congress, certainly the Oversight Committee, invites you to testify, it's not optional. It's not an exercise of whether or not it's convenient. They will show up, and we'll get to that in a moment. Mr. Temple is the head of the Dallas Field Office, the special agent in charge, and he can provide a unique perspective. He's in the field, one of the most challenging environments for fighting firearms trafficking, and in light of the serious problems that we covered in this IG report, we have to hear from the ATF officials outside of Washington. I'm tired of hearing from just management. I want to hear from the people that are actually on the front lines doing this. As you notice, Mr. Temple is not here either. Department of Justice continues to insist we shouldn't talk to Mr. Turk or Mr. Temple. And I'm going to get back to that later as we go to the questioning. We want to encourage ATF and other law enforcement agencies to place more emphasis on taking down criminals and their tools before they work their will. No law passed by Congress can require federal law enforcement officers to simply do their job. It is tough. It is difficult. It is. I've been on a lot of ride-alongs. I blow in and out in a few hours. They do this day in and day out. They need to know that we got their back. We got their support. We love for them. We love them. We care for them. And if there are problems and challenges that are happening at the front line, we need to know it. Can't get that perspective if when we ask them to be here, some management person says, no, they really don't need to be here. I speak for the agency. I speak for the mass. That's not the way this is going to work. Certainly not going to work in this Congress. It doesn't work for me. So I think the 2 that are here, but Mr. Brandon, you got some questions to answer about why people that work for you aren't here. And we'll get to that in the questioning. And as for Mr. Kraft, you know, when you work as an AUSA, Assistant U.S. Attorney, again, we're going to have some hard discussions with the Department of Justice because they're not above oversight either, and they will be here in the future as well. I've gone well past my time. Let me now recognize Ms. Maloney of New York for her opening statement.
I want to thank the chairman for holding this hearing.
We will make America great again.